Today is table and chairs day. We finally got it down to the garage. Our garage is nice and cleaned up, which was part of the reason we were delaying on this project, because we had a lot of extra stuff in here. So we cleaned up the garage, and now we're ready to do the table and chairs. As you can see, some of them are broken, some of them are nasty, dinged up. This is kind of the look that we're going for. This will be what it looks like when it's finished. These are what they look like now. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the seats off and sand them all down. All right, we got all the chairs disassembled. The tops are over here ready to be sanded. Have a little station of screws, and children are working on scrubbing down the chairs to get ready to sand. Since we homeschool, we thought we'd take the opportunity during this project to teach our children how to use some power tools. This is my oldest using the orbital sander for the first time. We also taught them some of the safety measures, like how to use safety goggles and masks. Since the chairs are being painted, they only needed to be roughed up and not sanded all the way down to bare wood. So I just used a sanding block and some sandpaper to just go around all the surfaces and make sure it was rough enough that the paint would adhere. And then obviously they need to be wiped down again so they're not all dusty. Here's what I've got done the first evening. Oop, sorry about that. Just have the leaf left to sand before I'm ready to stain the top, and then I can paint the bottom. So, looking good. I, on the other hand, a little bit messy. Day one is done. I'm completely covered in sawdust, but I'm feeling good. Ready for bed. It's day 2 of our project. I got a paint sprayer at Lowe's for less than $100, probably in the $60 range. And it's my first time ever using a paint sprayer. So very steep learning curve, but pretty easy to get the hang of. You don't want to spray too much or too close because you'll get drips. But you just kind of go at a very even pace and continue moving that sprayer back and forth. Keep it at even distance, probably about 6 inches away, and it's good to go. It was very, very easy, much faster than using a paintbrush, and the finish looks way better. I'd highly recommend doing paint spraying outside on a calm day. Unfortunately, on the day we decided to paint these chairs, it was raining outside, so we decided to set it up in the garage instead. As you can see, I put some tarps out to protect the garage door and the floor, but unfortunately there was still a lot of overspray on the floor, so if you can do it outside, it's definitely a better idea. Coat 1 is done. All 6 chairs. I still have to do the table, but I'll get to that today. As you can see, it's not bad, but it is a little light in some places. It'll definitely need a second coat. But the project is coming along nicely. Yesterday it was raining, so we painted in the garage, but today it's nice and sunny and beautiful. So we're gonna finish our second coat on the chairs outside and our first coat, and hopefully the second coat on the legs of the table. And it's a little breezy here and there, but I think I can work around it. And then we taped off the top of the table, as you can see, so that we didn't get the unfinished wood painted, because we want to stain that. So I'm gonna get after it. This is my neighbor's dog who wandered over. I tried to shoo her home a few times, but as you can see, she was very curious about what was going on. All the noise that the paint sprayer was making and what I was doing out in the yard. And of course, sometimes you have to take a break just to be a mom. Alright, we're back in the garage, and the bottom of the table is finished. Painted, and the chairs are painted, and that one is gluing up. The top was falling off, so we had to glue it and clamp it. And the only thing I have left to do on the table is this little edge. There's a bevel edge right there, and it still has some of the previous stain on it, so I'm gonna have to go around and sand that by hand. And I just created a little tool from a piece of scrap wood that I have that's triangular. And I'm just wrapping the sandpaper around it and just going right along the edge. And as you can see where I've already done, it's nice and clean compared to what it was with a lot of stain. So just getting that last little piece of stain out of the corner there, so I can go ahead and poly it. We are not actually going to stain the tabletop. We're just going to leave it natural wood, and then we're going to poly it so that it's nice and sealed. It'll probably darken up quite a bit with the poly, but we're just going to leave it the color that it is. For this project, I used a water-based polyurethane clear that I just picked up at my local home improvement store. And I used a foam brush to put it on the seat tops as well as the tabletop, making sure to get all the sides and every nook and cranny so that the whole thing looks even. It's pretty easy to apply. You don't need to wipe it off or anything like with stain. You just let it dry and then sand it down and then put a few more coats on. I ended up doing about 4 to 6 coats on each surface. If you are doing a big project like a tabletop, I would recommend that you use a larger foam brush than I used for this project. I probably should have just gotten a different brush, but I had already started with this one, so I decided to finish it up with this little foam brush, and it was painfully slow. I ended up at some points just dripping the poly onto the table and then spreading it out with the brush. So I definitely recommend using a bigger brush for a larger surface. It would waste a lot less time. I did end up using a larger foam brush for the rest of the coats of the poly, but the first one I just used the small brush for, just as I was getting the hang of it. You do need to sand in between each coat, and I did about 6 coats on the tabletop just to ensure that it was well sealed, that it was going to be extra durable and stand up to any kind of abuse that our family could put it through with kids and pets. So lots of coats of poly, sanding in between, wipe it down, poly it again. It took probably about a week to do the whole tabletop with dry time in between and all of that. You really need a solid amount of time to do all of those coats. Let them all dry thoroughly and do the whole thing. But in the end, it really turned out great. We love it. It's held up. We finished this project at least 6 months ago, so it's definitely held up. The durability test is great, and the table still looks fantastic. And here it is, finished and back in my dining room, looking like it's straight out of a Joanna Gaines magazine. I'm super happy with the way it turned out. It looks great in my house. It really brightens up the room. The durability has been great. And although the project took us probably about a month, a lot longer than we had expected, we're really excited with how it turned out. As always, thanks for watching.